it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, my goal in today's video is to show you all the different ways that we can go about using RUB-ONS, because these are such a versatile product. You don't have to buy a whole lot of stamps and dies and colors and stencils to get this beautiful product looking like this. And I want to show you 4 of the main ways and different materials that we can use these RUB-ONS on. Now, these are called the Blendable Essentials number 3, I believe, except for there are some stunning, beautiful blendables or RUB-ONS from 49 and Market. I will just say that they are hard to pass up. Now, first of all, I just want to quickly create some sort of like background, and I don't want to get sort of hung up or stuck on creating a background that's an identical color. So you will notice that I pretty much just throw color at this. I have a little bit of peacock feathers, I have a little bit of old paper, I have a little bit of chipped sapphire. I just sort of throw colors at this, and it's not going to be the same color, it's not going to be identical, but you're going to see how it works nonetheless. This is a piece of Tim Holtz watercolor paper, so it is going to take this watercolor and these inks really well. Then I'm going to dry it, and I'm going to use all of this in the cards today too. You don't need to at all, but I just want to show you that actually it doesn't have to be perfection. You can just pop together something in the background and it's going to work really well. Now, I'm using these postage stamps, this nesting set here. This has become an absolute favorite. I kind of didn't have any idea how much I would fall in love with this set, but I have die cut one out in plain white cardstock, and then of course we have that dried piece there behind it. I'm going to use a little portion of this to frame up one of these. So the first way that we're going to use this is going to be purely just onto cardstock. I will say, and I can vouch for, I have had many packets that I have purchased from 49 and Market of all sorts of RUB-ONS, and they all work perfectly. You do not have to work hard to get these to transfer to the paper, and yet they don't transfer so easily that you sort of, if you put it down accidentally, then it's game over. You can move these around a little bit, but I will say when you apply pressure, it's transferred. So this is the first way, and just look how stunning this looks. There are 8 of those little sort of scenes that come in this packet. So there's 2 full sheets, and I'm going to make 4 cards for you today just to show you all the different ways we can use these on so many different materials. So the first is nice and plain and simple, and I'm just going to pop this first bit up on a little bit of foam tape to give it some dimension. I mean, look at that already. And then a secret that I've been using recently is this Master Layouts 3 has 4 different sized little banners in it. And I have found that this not only works with all of the Gina K sentiments, it works with so many different companies. So although the Master Layouts die set is from Gina K, how handy is it? And so all I do is just cut these out and stamp them on, or if you have pre-printed pages, then you can just cut them out with your die cutters. But that is what I'm going to be using for all of my sentiments today. Super simple. Number 2 is going to be a little bit of note paper. Now this one mine's quite thin, I would say, quite thin and fine. This is just a random, I was making sure that there is no words or anything specific on here that would make it identifiable. I really just want it to be the background. And speaking of the background, to make the RUB-ON not sink into the background quite so much, I'm going to add on a little splattering of white paint there. I just used a little makeup sponge to sponge it on, and I love the Dina Wakley heavy bodied white. That's the one I used, but I'm sure any are honestly going to work. You could even use a bit of color behind this, but I didn't want to lose any of this beautiful pattern, so I'm keeping it white, I'm keeping it neutral and plain. And then you can see when I put this on a card base, it's a little big and a little plain, but hold on because we're going to add some bits and pieces. First of all, I'm just going to rip this. I love the torn edge. I love that look for the note paper, for the music, and so I just keep tearing until I like the look of it. I like to tear away from me so that I get that beautiful edge of the tearing, but you can play around whether you like tearing towards you or away from you. And then we also have this scrap as well that we created just before that I'm going to include in the background too. So just layering up a couple of pieces. Of course, you might just have a solid piece of cardstock that you would like to use for this background piece, but even just offsetting this a little bit just steps it up the next level. So you can also use things like music paper, note paper, rice paper, all those sorts of things to add your rub-ons onto as well. Again, pop a little sentiment in there, and this one is stunning. You could add some splatter or some faux splatter. You could add some little enamel dots or drops. I like it as is, and that is going to be card number 2. The next thing I want to show you that you can use rub-ons on is going to be just pure vellum. These things attach to glass, they attach to vellum. I mean, the projects are just absolutely unlimited. And I have this white frame here. This is actually what I cut the first one out of that wasn't meant to be a frame, but when I'm cutting out like a solid piece, I always frame it up in the middle just in case I can actually use the frame, even if it's in a later project. It doesn't have to be in the one I'm using right now. And so that's what this is. I did nicely square it up to be in the middle, and turns out I'll use the frame. As you've just seen, it transferred onto the vellum super quickly, super simple. I don't have to sort of rub and pressure away for ages. It just glides on there beautifully. And as you can still see the image beautifully. If you want to, you could add some white behind there so that you can see it nicely. I want the white, but I also want a little matting layer. Now this is going to be the Sage color cardstock from Simon Says Stamp, I believe. And this is an interesting green. I have come to love this color. And so I am actually going to cut out the center because I don't want the green to back the image. I just want it to be the matting layer. So you can see that it's going to sit nicely in behind there. Don't worry about my rough cutting. No one's going to see that part. I know it does look a little bit hacked at, but all they're going to see are the beautiful straight edges on the outside. And so then I can pop some foam tape here. Of course, you could make this into a shaker card. It nearly is in itself, but I'm not after a shaker card today. We're just using the beautiful vellum to show you that this is yet another way that you can use your rub-ons. And then make sure you get it straight. If you did what I do and did not get it on straight, you can always add on a little bit of liquid glue on top of the foam tape behind it so that you can move it around. You still get the dimension, but you're able to wiggle it around and get it where you need to go. Okay, that is card number 3. We've used the vellum, so what can we move on to next? We are going to be cutting up this beautiful image, which I understand can be tricky, but trust the process. I'm going to pop this down onto a little, this is one of the same Postage pieces of cardstock that I have cut out from that original nesting die set. I swap this on over so that it's transferred beautifully. Anything that pops over the edges, I just bend it around the back. Then I'm going to cut this square in half and then square in quarters again. Now, obviously, I just measured the piece of paper that I've got, the postage stamp there, for example. It was, 3.5 inches, so I'm going to make it 1 3/4. That's where I'm going to cut in the middle. Very simple. Cut it in half and then cut it in half again. And then out of that same Sage cardstock, because it actually didn't look too bad and it went pretty well, I'm going to pop these down. I am going to pop them up on a little bit of foam tape just so that I get that extra little bit of dimension. But don't forget that you can cut your images up in any direction that you want, actually. You could also just slice your scissors through it and put it back together that way. It doesn't have to be done with a trimmer. It doesn't have to be done equally or evenly. You can just do sort of like a 2 cuts and you end up with 3 pieces sort of situation. Lots of different ways to do these beautiful techniques. And then I thought, why not do like a little inlay technique out of this piece that I had originally used? And so I am going to lay this back in so that it is nice and even and flat with that postage piece there. And I'm going to put some double-sided tape on just to keep it in place. but then I'm going to pop foam tape over top of that. Now I did take the release paper off of the double-sided adhesive on the back there just because I wanted to make sure it stuck, so I did use foam tape. And then this one here, I could put on a little sentiment perhaps, but actually I really like this one as is, and talk about versatile. So we have 4 beautiful ways that you can use your rub-ons, and these can be from any company. Doesn't specifically have to be 49 and Market, but I love these ones, and it's probably not a color I was automatically going to pick, but I've been leaning into the greens and I love this one. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video too. I hope that this has inspired you, and I hope that you will head on over to natashafootecreative.com to find more of these beautiful videos, as well as the 10 days of crafting through Christmas. Starting November 20th, you do not want to miss these 10 videos that I have coming up for you. So I will see you over there. Bye.